Hello everyone. We are in a city without a name and without coordinates. The protagonist, Stephen, is also the narrator and shares with us an incredible story that happened in his life recently. One day, in this place, there was a severe storm, and the following morning, the fishermen found something that horrified the entire village. A giant human corpse lay on the beach. At first, Stephen didn't take the news of the discovery seriously and thought it was someone's imagination or an optical illusion. But curiosity prevailed, and he went to the beach along with some friends. Stephen tells us that he is a scientist and that he didn't go there out of mere curiosity, unlike the huge crowd of people who stare in amazement at the corpse and discuss how much it weighs. Some people think it weighs about 60 tons, while others say 80. The body is so large that just the bones probably weigh about 30 tons. However, the town's inhabitants are in no hurry to approach. They simply stare at the strange giant from a safe distance and wait, without even knowing what for. Stephen looks at the giant with the eyes of a researcher. According to him, the size of the body does not allow for a proper assessment of the deceased's age, but the shape of his lips and nose suggests that he was probably a young man of a reserved personality. The absence of wrinkles allows this conclusion. His beautiful face with classic features dispels all those ideas that people have that giants are vile, coarse, and unpleasant. Nothing of the sort. This giant more resembles the beautiful hero of an ancient Greek myth. The size and incredible beauty of the deceased giant surprised Stephen. Now, he has the impression that we know very little about the world, and that consequently, our consciousness is very limited. What else do we have to uncover if the mere existence of such majestic creatures has been hidden from our eyes for so many centuries? Compared to these mysterious creatures, even our bodies seem like a pathetic and weak copy. A friend of Stephen's, who went to the beach with him, climbs on the giant's chest and poses as if she had just discovered a new continent. People shout and applaud her. Before, everyone was afraid to approach the body, but now they follow her example, and a crowd rushes toward it. Children and adults climb on the giant's chest, arms and legs, leaving dirty footprints on his marbled skin. Stephen observes this with serenity, as if he knew it was only a matter of time until the perfect body of the giant was desecrated. Stephen sits with his friends until nightfall, watching the giant, who seems not dead, but merely asleep. He imagines that at any second, the giant could awaken and, with a simple movement, crush the copies of himself that surround him. When the sun finally sets on the horizon, Stephen leaves. He returns to the beach only 3 days later. His colleagues from the research center have entrusted Stephen with the task of observing the giant's decomposition. This task does not frighten him. The giant seems very much alive to him, more alive even than some people who, without any weight on their conscience, throw plastic cups in the sand of the beach and run over the body as if it were a bizarre playground. For several hours, Stephen watches children playing on the giant's chest, while some men sketch the outline of his body and discuss the best way to divide it, as if it were the carcass of a giant cow. A new day dawns, and this time, the scientist arrives at the beach at lunchtime, hoping to see fewer people. His expectations were correct. On the beach, he sees only a girl sitting on the giant's ear, glued to her smartphone, but the researcher also notices many new things. First, the giant's face has changed. Due to prolonged exposure to the water, it has become swollen and started to look less young. The incredible metamorphosis, in which life continues even after death, fascinates Stephen. Finally, he decides to step onto the giant's body and look at it from above. From above, he notices that someone has amputated the giant's hand. Now, the giant's face has shifted from an example of classic beauty to a mask of helplessness and fatigue. He ended up having a life as short as all other mortal beings, and his solitary stay on the beach, like some kind of abandoned ship, only intensifies this feeling. After some time, the scientist returns to the beach and sees that now, the giant no longer has legs. Furthermore, people have covered his entire body with obscene graffiti. Now, he appears quite vulnerable and more human. Perhaps that's why people have become so callous towards him. Another day passes and the giant is even without a head. When Stephen arrives at the beach a few weeks later, it becomes obvious that the giant's body has lost any resemblance to a human, and it is only then that people finally lose all interest in him. There is no one else on the beach anymore. Stephen also does not return there. Several months pass, and the town's inhabitants completely forget about the appearance of the giant. But driving through the small streets, Stephen starts to see remnants of the giant's body here and there. People decorate their shops with the bones of the giant. Someone even uses his skull as a garden decoration. This delights the scientist. It is more pleasant to remember the majesty of the mysterious creature through these artifacts than to remember how insignificant he had become in his last days on the beach. It is not hard to guess which part of the body most interested the town's curious onlookers. The owner of a traveling circus has put it in a huge aquarium filled with formaldehyde and charges people who want to see it. However, the genital organ is attributed to a dead whale, and no one even realizes the deception. Now, even those who saw the beautiful giant on the day he appeared on the beach remember him as a terrible sea monster. Time has completely distorted their memories, making them absurd. But for Stephen, the giant is still alive, ready to rise at any moment, wander through the town, and after gathering the parts of his body, return to the sea once more. Another story about an encounter with mysterious creatures happens in the life of a guy named Rob and his companion Gail. One day, the young couple moves into their dream home and realizes that the landlord left a small gift for them. Rob tries to reassure the girl. He says that these old refrigerators are actually very smart. They have the motor installed on top, not at the bottom, so heat is released more easily. But the piece looks terrible. It has stains, scratches, and dirt all over, and it's better not to think about what's inside it. To forget about that gift left by the owner, Gail suggests they drink a glass of wine, and Rob decides to look for ice in that refrigerator. He takes a piece of ice from the freezer with difficulty, takes the first sip, and suddenly notices something strange. There is something in the ice cube, but to see it better, Gail needs a magnifying glass.
Are those spirits inside? What?
Gail rushes to the refrigerator to check if there are other strange artifacts inside, but she only finds the chamber full of ice. However, as she breaks through a layer of ice and mist, she finally sees what is hidden inside. In front of the astonished faces of Gail and Rob, a lively medieval city emerges. Dozens of people run through the squares and streets. There are traders moving back and forth at the market, and farmers busy with the harvest. But one thing confuses the girl. Where did the mammoth come from? If these animals died out at the end of the Neolithic? After closing the refrigerator and burying the small mammoth in a flower pot, Gail and Rob decide to check once more on their lost civilization. They are surprised to discover that the Industrial Revolution is already in full swing in the little town. It has evolved so quickly that the owners of the magic refrigerator don't even have time to notice that airplanes are appearing from the sky, and the city center is filled with skyscrapers. But suddenly, something unexpected happens.
What's going on there?
Rob is momentarily blinded by a strange explosion that occurred in the refrigerator. He quickly regains his vision, but his face takes on a funny burnt tone. What was that? When the couple takes another look at the refrigerator, they realize that a large-scale nuclear war has started inside. Gail and Rob decide that it is no longer possible to save this alternative world. They close the refrigerator and decide to order a pizza. An hour later, Rob wonders if there is any chance that the freezer people have already rebuilt everything. Gail is more skeptical, but her curiosity wins out. The couple opens the door and sees that the universe has not only survived, but has reached a level of progress that, for now, we can only dream of. The futuristic city changes constantly. It is covered with giant bridges, incredible buildings, and technological structures. But at some point, the civilization decides to move to space, or simply cannot withstand the pressure and transforms into a heap of energy. It comes out of the refrigerator, surrounds Rob and Gail cheerfully, dances through the kitchen, and soon disappears. Now it seems there is no longer any hope of salvation. Gail and Rob accept what has happened, disconnect the refrigerator, and decide to clean it the next morning. They go to sleep disheartened, and during breakfast, discover that the world around them is much more cyclical than they thought. The mammoths are more alive than ever, and the only thing threatening them are cavemen, ready to kill them at any moment with their spears. Humans also cannot relax. Civilization is teeming with powerful dinosaurs, which will only die out in a few million years. Humanity is once again at the dawn of its evolution, and it may be that today it will traverse its long path in history again, with Rob and Gail merely observing. Fans of the series Love, Death and Robots love to discuss the hidden meanings that the creators embed in the episodes. In Stephen's story, for example, they see a message about the environment. Just take a look at the skeleton of the giant that remained on the beach a few months after his appearance. Does it remind you of anything? Yes, it's just like the carcass of a whale. Whales wash up on beaches with an unenviable regularity, and for many, this has become a common sight. Could it be that the creators wanted to tell us that we become very indifferent to the death of any living being very quickly? In the story of the refrigerator, there is less room for interpretation. It's obvious that Gail and Rob are like divine observers. There's even a scene in the episode where some workers take a break from building a skyscraper, look at the couple, and wonder why these strange people are watching them all day. Could it be that somewhere up there, someone is watching the evolution of our civilization in the same way? Would you like to live in a universe where ancient giants appear on beaches and an entire civilization can live inside a refrigerator? Or do you prefer the real world? Tell us in the comments and subscribe to the channel to always stay up to date with the best stories from the movies.